Hi friends, Terry D. It is December 28th, 2025, just after Christmas. Anyway, thought I'd show you what's going on in Montana, Prairie Valley on Indian Prairie. Here's my place there, and here's my apple orchard. Not too many apples this time of year. It's a pretty cold night. I got down to 9 degrees, and we had a pretty warm day before where it rained, and you can see how it all turned to ice. Flash freeze, excuse me, as they call it. I wanted to show you guys I talked to you guys about the history of where I live. I've lived here all my life. And this actually used to be my motocross track. Used to go up over the top of the hill up there, and back down. And when I was a kid, I had a lot of fun, so that's where I got my motorhead interest from. Was from my dad. He bought us mini bikes, and that kind of started it. But yeah, we started out in the old home ranch down there on Indian Prairie. My grandfather came down there in 1907, I think, or 6, and bought the ranch. I guess there were some Indian cabins over in there somewhere built in a circle. But yeah, my grandfather passed on. My dad inherited the ranch. He actually didn't inherit it. He had to pay for it all over again because I guess during those days, you didn't have a will. The government would take your land. Anyway, so my dad had to pay for it twice, I understand. And then from there, they sold that to Jerry Brown. Went up on the hill, bought the house up there. That's kind of an addition we see on the end of it that I did for Lombardo a long time ago. And that was a mid-century modern house, really cool design. I like that architecture. Built a rock fence. See that rock fence? Zoom it. By the big tree. From the house to the tree, there's a big rock fence. Because back in those days, the cars didn't have automatic transmissions. And they'd leave them in neutral, and they'd roll down the hill and go crashing down almost all the way down to the other road here. This is Indian Prairie Loop. And so from that house, the daughters got married. Too big a house to clean for my mom. So then they moved down the hill and to this place here. Built this little tiny house near the old schoolhouse back around 1971 or so, I think, 72 in there. I have to actually go by dirt bikes that I owned back then. I owned like a 72 Yamaha MX 250. It's my second or third dirt bike, and that's when I was living here with the parents. I was probably about 14 or 16 at the time. And then the old Curlew schoolhouse is right here. See this? This is the schoolhouse that used to be up at the Curlew mine, and they moved it down from the mine to this location. And so my dad one day asked the school district what they wanted for it, and he bought it for $800. It has a really nice belfry. Turned it into like a shop. So the shop had hardwood floors, stuff like that. Here comes a couple of cars. Anyway, just a wave at them. So let's see what else is trying to tell you about this place. So then, so that house was too dusty. This road was actually a gravel road. So too hard to clean, once again. So back up on the hill they went. This house, you can see it, the willow trees are in the way. Up on the hill, Joni and Darren Muir live up there. And when I got married, I built this house I call the Schley down below, and then sold that back to my parents, and I built this other house over here where I live now, to kind of sum that up. But I wanted to mostly talk about the ancient history of this place. Ancient meaning probably a couple hundred years ago, excuse me, or maybe even more. Just walk up the road a ways, and kind of black ice in the road, see that? Watch out for that stuff. And they chip seal the roads, meaning they rough them up. They put gravel on top and then roll it into the asphalt surface, so it roughens up the road for traction in the wintertime. It's called chip sealing. Good thing. So up here is my dad's old sawmill I wanted to show you guys. Just coming up here. There it is, coming into view right there. So that was probably back in the 1950s and 60s, or just after World War II. He was doing a lot of logging. And need a mill. This is one of his mills. This is a stationary mill. He had a couple of portable mills too he would use. But that's the old sawmill, what's left of it. It had like a green chain going out that end to get rid of the sawdust. And those green doors there was a pond in front. See the depression? There was a pond in front of that. I played down here as a kid. And they'd float the logs over to this ramp with these big arms and a chain. And they pull the logs up onto the carriage and then run it through the saw out that way. But the main reason I want to take you guys over and show you this is because in the old days, there was like Native Americans living here, right? And they were living on Indian Prairie, which is what this is called. This road here is called Indian Prairie Loop. And I live over that way, other side of that house now, to the north. This is looking south. And so just up here a little ways is the old ceremonial ground, I call it. I don't know what they called it. Anyway, my dad would plow. He owned most Indian Prairie, right? Or half of it, whatever. And I believe Langton's owned the south half. We own the north half. So out here, he would plow the field and his tractor would buck because he'd hit this section where they'd plow in circles. The Native Americans would plow in circles, right? And things are sacred to those guys. And anyway, my dad's tractor would buck, and then he knew it was a ceremonial ground because he would summer follow it, meaning he would let the dirt just sit. They would pick, he'd disc it after he plowed it, and then pick the rock. And then he'd find these stone tools. He found an old pipe, he found a sledgehammer, he found like a scraper. Ran here someplace, out in there. Was their ceremonial ground, I guess. And then the story is that the Nez Perce would come out of Big Creek on the old Indian Trail, that is Big Creek, right there, and have horse races against the Salish who lived here. And this hill is like a natural viewing area. They could sit, and look over the heads of each other or whatever, and they could watch these horse races. So that's my idea. I don't know if people ever sat on this hill and watched the races, but it would have been really cool to watch those horse races. I would have loved to have seen those. So the mountains, those are called the Bear Creek Totems right there. And Big Creek is right here. Big Creek's got an old Indian trail. It starts on top of that hill right there. I'm gonna put my finger right there. That hill part used to be called Rinky's Knob. That's my dad called it. I don't think anybody calls it that anymore. They probably don't know the name that the old timers called it. But anyway, there's an old Indian trail up there. I've explored it. There's some old rock art, tally marks and stuff on a cliff. You go literally between a cliff and the edge of the mountain on the trail to get up there. And anyway, I've explored that trail quite a bit, and it kind of disappears and reappears, and it links back into the bridge. That when the trail crosses the bridge, and the trail then goes, the main trail that we have now goes to the north side of the creek. The old Indian trail connects into it there, and then the trail goes up to Teepee Rock. A big rock fell off the mountain and split, and you can camp under it during a rainstorm. And it's called Teepee Rock. And right there's a place called the Narrows, just to the west of that, called the Narrows, where they had a blast to build the trail. And that basically is where the trail then diverges. The old Indian trail goes up in the mountains. I haven't explored it past that. So anyway, welcome to Indian Prairie. So that's it. You guys have a good day. Be well. Be safe. Thanks for watching, friends. Peace out.